Hello, everybody. Welcome along to our press conference today. Well, as I'm sure most people or everybody in the room will know, Megumi Yokota was famously snatched off the Japan Sea coast in 1977 and spirited away to North Korea. She is among an estimated 17 Japanese citizens taken in the same way. North Korea says she committed suicide in 1994 and returned what they say were her cremated remains. Her family insists that she is still alive. Her brother is here today, Takuya Yokota, to speak about fresh efforts to return her sister and other abductees. He said recently that North Korea has been sending signals suggesting a new opening for a possible resolution to a problem which has now been going on for decades. He has called for face-to-face meetings between Japanese officials and North Koreans without making any concessions. Mr. Yokota says there is a need for urgency, as all of his colleagues have said, because the parents of the abductees, of course, are getting old, and indeed Megumi and Takuya's father died in 2020. His mother is now getting older too. Yokota-san is going to speak for about 10 minutes in Japanese. Our interpreter is Mary Joyce, and then we will open up to questions. I'll get out of the way. Yokota-san, お願いします。
皆様こんにちは。家族会代表を務めております横田拓也と申します。
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Takuya Yokota, and I'm representing the Association of Families of Victims Kidnapped by North Korea.
1977年、今から46年前に北朝鮮の工作員たちによって中学校からの下校途中に13歳で拉致された横田めぐみの双子の弟です。本日はお集まりいただきましてありがとうございます。
I am the younger brother and one of two twins, younger brother to Yokota Megumi. Megumi was abducted by North Korean agents 46 years ago in the year 1977 when she was 13 years old and on her way home from junior high school. Thank you for being here today.
最初に拉致問題とは関係はありませんが、台湾逃亡期地震で亡くなられた方、被災をされている方にお悔やみとお見舞いの言葉を申し上げます。
First of all, while it is not directly related to the abductee issue, I would like to express condolences and thoughts for the people whose lives were lost or impacted by the recent earthquake off the eastern coast of Taiwan.
最初にあちらの写真をご覧ください。
First, please take a look at the photograph on the screen now.
姉めぐみが拉致される前に広島での家族旅行の一枚です。
This is a photograph of a family vacation in Hiroshima before my sister Megumi was abducted.
どこにでもある普通の家族の姿です。皆さんの幼少期、各ご家庭のフォトフレームに皆様のお父様、お母様が笑顔の子どもたちの写真を飾ってあったことを思い出してください。
This is just a photograph of a normal family like you might see anywhere. But please think back and remember the photo frames in your own household when you're a child, of your own father and mother and smiling children.
そして今、皆さんの笑顔あふれる大切なお子様の写真が飾っていることを思い出してください。
And please also remember that your own precious photographs now of children with beaming smiles are displayed in your own homes.
そうして当たり前の幸せな瞬間が一方的な暴力による現状変更によって46年間も人権が蹂躙され、家族の絆が引き裂かれたままなのです。
Such moments of happiness that we take for granted have, through the changing of the status quo through unilateral violence, been instead for 46 years violated human rights and with family ties torn apart.
もし皆さん自身がそのようなひどい状況下にあり、誰も助けてくれなかったらどう思うか。皆さんの大切なお子様が拉致されたまま人質として拘束され、誰も見向きもしてくれなかったら何を思うか。
I would like to ask you to think about how you would feel if you were in such a terrible situation yourself and no one was helping. What would you think if your precious children were abducted and held as hostage and no one paid any attention?
そしてもう一枚の写真をご覧ください。
Please look at this other photograph.
この写真は姉めぐみが拉致された後、北朝鮮国内で撮影されたものです。
This is a photograph which was taken inside North Korea after my older sister Megumi was abducted.
これほど悲しそうで不安な顔をしためぐみを見たことがありません。
I've never seen Megumi with such a sad and anxious face before.
このような絶望の淵にいる子どもが皆さんのお子様なら何をしなくてはならないか、こうした視点で捉えてほしいと思います。
So I would like to invite you all, as you look at this photograph, to think of it from the perspective of this and what you would feel needed to be done if your own child were in such despair.
私の姉めぐみは色に例えると黄色やオレンジ色の明るく朗らかな姉でした。
My older sister Megumi was a bright and cheerful sister, and if I were to compare her to a color, she would be yellow or orange.
先ほどご覧いただいた笑顔の写真の通りです。
Just as you can see in this photograph here.
姉がもし拉致されていなければ、どれだけ多くの自己実現や社会貢献ができただろうか、両親のところへ孫を連れて幸せいっぱいの時間を過ごせただろうかと思います。
I wonder that if my sister had not been abducted, how fulfilling a life she might have lived, making contributions to society, and how many happy moments she could have spent bringing her children to meet her parents or their grandparents.
2002年9月の日朝首脳会談の結果、5人の拉致被害者本人、そして2004年にそのご家族を日本に取り戻すことができました。
As a result of the Japan-North Korea summit, which was held in September of 2002, 5 abductees themselves, and then in 2004, their families were returned to Japan.
一方、北朝鮮が出した回答は彼らにとって都合のいい仕分けのもと、私の姉めぐみを含めて8人死亡、1人未入居と通告してきました。
On the other hand, based on a sorting system which was of convenience to the North Korean government, their response was they responded to tell us that 8 people had died, including my sister Megumi, and 1 person had not entered the area.
また2004年に拉致事件のシンボル的存在である横田家を諦めさせるための姉の遺骨と称するものを提示してきましたが、私たち家族は受け取りを拒否し、直ちに日本政府に DNA 鑑定をお願いしました。
In 2004, in order to make the Yokota family give up, as we had been the symbolic figure in this abduction case, the North Korean government presented us with what they called the remains of my sister. However, our family refused to accept them as they were and immediately asked the Japanese government to conduct a DNA test.
DNA 鑑定の結果、他人のお骨であることを暴き出しました。北朝鮮は今も人質外交を続けています。
The results of this test revealed that the bones were those of somebody else. North Korea continues its hostage diplomacy.
日朝首脳会談から21年が経ち、その戦いの中で拉致された自分の家族や兄弟との再会を果たせず、他界された親世代が何人もいます。
21 years have now passed since the Japan-North Korea summit, and during this struggle during the period since then, several members of our parents' generation have passed away without having ever been able to be reunited with their own families and siblings who were abducted.
私の父茂もめぐみとの再会を夢見て最前線で声を上げて戦ってきましたが、2020年6月に他界しました。
My own father Shigeru also dreamt of reuniting with Megumi and fought vocally on the front line toward that. However, he passed away in June 2020.
父の無念な気持ちを思うと胸が張り裂けそうです。
When I think about his despair and sadness, my heart breaks.
めぐみとの再会を待つ母早紀江は88歳です。
My mother Sakie, who is also awaiting the chance to meet Megumi again, is now 88 years old.
1997年に発足した家族会、当時最前線で声を上げていた親世代の家族は、拉致被害者有本恵子さんのお父様明弘さん95歳と、めぐみの母早紀江の2人だけという厳しい状況です。残された時間がないのです。
Our Association of Families was founded in 1997, and the members of this parents' generation who have over these years continued to raise their voices on the front line. There is only two of them left today, the father of Arimoto Keiko and also my own mother, Megumi's mother, Sakie. We don't have any time left.
こうしたことから私たち家族会、救う会は新たな運動方針を決めました。
And in view of this fact, we, the Association of Families, have recently decided on a new policy for our campaign or movement.
その運動方針を申し上げますが、親の世代の家族が存命のうちに全拉致被害者の一括帰国が実現するなら、我が国が人道支援を行うことと、我が国がかけている独自制裁を解除することに反対しないという内容です。
And the contents of this new policy are stating that we, as the families, will not oppose or are not opposed to Japan providing humanitarian assistance and lifting its own sanctions if all abductees are returned home together while their parents' generation is still alive.
この運動方針を決めた後、3月4日に首相官邸で岸田首相に文書施行の上、私たちの考え方をお伝えしました。
After deciding upon this policy, we as the association conveyed this thinking to Prime Minister Kishida through presenting a letter and having a meeting with him at the Prime Minister's office on March the 4th.
北朝鮮による日本人拉致事件は、加害者が北朝鮮で、被害者が日本国、そして日本人という単純明快な構図です。
The case or the situation of the abduction of Japanese citizens by North Korea is a simple and straightforward case in which the perpetrator is North Korea and the victims are the state of Japan and Japanese citizens.
本来被害者側が加害者側に譲歩するような話ではありません。
This should not be a situation where the side of the victim should have to make concessions to the side of the perpetrator.
それでもどうしても親世代の家族と拉致被害者本人と合わせてあげたいという一心で新たな運動方針を作成し、北朝鮮にメッセージを発信しているのです。
However, with the single-minded desire to somehow ensure that the parents' generation of the families are able to once again meet with the abductees, we have decided on this new campaign policy and are sending this as a message to North Korea.
日本人拉致事件を解決させるのは当事者である日本国の責任です。
It is the responsibility of the state of Japan as the party concerned to resolve the case of abduction of Japanese citizens.
岸田首相は日朝首脳会談を実現させ、譲歩することなく全拉致被害者の即時一括帰国を具体化してほしいと思います。
We hope that Prime Minister Kishida will realize a Japan-North Korea summit meeting and make concrete the immediate return of all abductees to Japan together without having to make concessions.
また日朝両国がお互いに抱える人道問題を解決することで、両国が明るい未来を描けるのだということを金正恩委員長に伝えてほしいと思います。
At the same time, I hope that Prime Minister Kishida will also convey to Chairman Kim Jong-un that both Japan and North Korea can together draw a bright future if they are able to resolve their mutual humanitarian issues.
今月4月の日米首脳会談の場では、日本が日朝間にある人道問題である拉致事件を解決させることを強くアピールするとともに、米国の変わらぬ協力と支援をいただけるよう、そして拉致問題が解決するまで制裁を決して緩めてはならないことを首脳同士で約束してほしいと思います。
At the US-Japan summit, which is coming up this month, this April, I hope that Japan will strongly appeal for a resolution of this abduction case, which is a human rights and humanitarian issue between Japan and North Korea. And at the same time, I hope that the leaders will commit to ensure the United States continuing to provide cooperation and support, and also that sanctions should not be relaxed until the abduction issue is resolved.
最後に、金正恩委員長の勇気ある英断を期待したいと思います。ありがとうございます。
And finally, I hope that Chairman Kim Jong-un will make a courageous and wise decision. Thank you very much.
And thank you for that very clear statement. So we will open the room to questions from working journalists first. I think it's the tables in front of me, and then from the rest of the room. And just a reminder to people who are looking online, we can take questions from you as well. You can submit your questions to the FCCJ website. If you would like to ask a question, can you just show your hand, indicate please? I see 3, 4, 5 hands up. This gentleman here, and then Greg, and then the third gentleman.
Thank you very much. My name is Takuya Nishimura, with freelance. Let me ask in Japanese. 日本語で伺います。家族会の方針、新しい運動方針を受けてというか、その後にですね、北朝鮮の側からキム・ヨジョン氏の方からですね、メッセージが発せられて、拉致問題を障害物としなければという条件付きで、平壌訪問の可能性はあると、こういうメッセージがまた出てきたわけですけれども、これは家族会の運動方針の変更と関係があると受け止められてますか、あるいはもしあるとするならば、それに対する家族会の反応はいかがなものになりますか。
My name is Nishimura, freelance. I would like to ask that since the Association of Families announced your new policy, there was a statement made by the younger sister of Kim Jong and Kim Yo-jong, who spoke about the potential, the possibility of a visit to Pyongyang and its relation to, or if the issue of the objectives were not to be part of this. I'd like to ask if you, as the association, see that this is has any relation with the new policy which was issued by your association, and if you have any response to this statement of hers as well.
今のご質問についてお答えをいたしますけれども、キム・ヨジョン副部長の発言、コメントというのは、私たち家族会の運動方針や、彼女もしくはその他の方々がコメントしたことに対して、私たち家族会が回答していることに対して、全く関係がないとは思っていません。ただ一方で、キム・ヨジョン副部長はご本人自ら言ってますけれども、個人の見解であるということも言っています。意味合いとしては、日本政府と水面下交渉をしている、その水面下交渉をしていること自体は、岸田総理が公の場で発言されていますから、その水面下交渉はしていると思いますけど、その条件闘争的なところで、まだ彼らなりに受け入れられないところがあって、日本にある意味、譲歩を迫るような観測危機を上げている可能性があるだろうと思っています。北朝鮮当局、もしくはキム・ヨジョン副部長は、これまでも日本政府に対して、もしくはそれは対韓国、対アメリカに対しても、交渉直前で、その交渉を決裂させるかのような威勢のいいコメントをして、譲歩を引き出すといったような手口は、全く過去から同じでありますから、そういう意味では、私たちはうろたえることなく、静観していればいいんではないかなというふうには思っています。
In regards to the recent comments by Kim Jong-un, as the Association of Families, whether that is something in response or directly connected with either our new policy or also other comments that have been made, we don't believe that this is completely unrelated. It cannot be said that it has nothing to do with this. However, at the same time, Kim Yo-jong herself has stated that this is she's making a statement in a personal capacity rather than official, and that is her personal position. At the same time, when we consider the negotiations which are underway under the surface, which Prime Minister Kishida has even stated publicly that they are happening. So, of course, we do take it to be the case that this is going on at the moment. As to whether a discussion or the conditions in regards to this, I think this indicates that they are not yet completely accepted, or that this is not yet come to agreement in regards to this. In some way, it could be said to be testing out the situation through these statements as well. At the same time, whether it is coming from the North Korean authorities or from Kim Yo-jong herself, we have seen the cases in previously as well, for example, prior to negotiations, whether it is toward the Japanese government or also South Korean or United States as well, making these kind of statements which can have both for gaining information but also can have an impact on the negotiations themselves, including even looking to break that up in a way as well. This is something which has happened in the past. So as the Association of the Families, we are continuing to monitor or pay attention to this situation.
加えて申し上げると、今の私の発言したことを前提に立てば、個人的な見方をすればですね、キム・ヨジョン副部長の 発言、談話というのは、私から見ると、焦りと心の揺らぎが見えたといったような感触を受けました。以上です。
However, if I would, taking what I've said as the foundations for this, but adding a personal perspective or comment on regards to this, I think that the comments she has made are also coming from a place of her feeling some kind of rush or being a little bit shaken about the situation as well, is my personal impressions of this.
Thank you. Greg had his hand up, and then the gentleman at the back with the last. Did you have your hand up? Yeah. And then Kitano-san.
My name is Gregory Clark, freelance from Australia. I see here that your mother, Sakia, went to Mongolia in the year 2014 with the permission of the Japanese government, provided, as I say, to meet your mother, provided the meeting was in a third country, and that's why they went to Mongolia. However, your mother went to Mongolia, but the record of it here says she only met the daughter. That's strange. Is there any explanation for that? Of course, the North Korean government has an explanation that she died soon after a forced marriage, or what seemed to be a very tragic death. And that would explain why only the daughter was present. But your organization and the Japanese government insist that she's still alive. Can you explain why your mother went all that way, presumably to meet your mother, but only met the daughter? I might add, I met your mother shortly after, and I asked her the same question, and she said, we went to help the position of the case of the other abductees, like your organization is doing. But could you please explain my first question, could you please answer my first question?
フリーランスのグレゴリー・クラークと申します。オーストラリア出身です。こちらの資料によりますと、お母様早紀江さんが2004年にモンゴルの方に行かれまして、そこでめぐみさんの娘さんにお会いしたということが記録されています。それは日本政府の許可を得て第三国であるモンゴルでお会いするということだったと思うんですけれども、それを考えますとかなり非常に不思議なことが一つあります。というのはわざわざモンゴルというところ、遠いところまで行かれまして、そこでめぐみさんではなくその娘さんだけに会うということはかなり不思議に思います。北朝鮮側の主張ですと、めぐみさんはすでに亡くなられていて、悲劇的な形で亡くなっているということで、娘さんにしか会うことができないということが北朝鮮側の主張であるんですけれども、家族会、そして日本政府の立場ですと、めぐみさんが今でも生きていらっしゃるということになります。それについて、わざわざそこまで遠いモンゴルまで行かれて、それでめぐみさんに会えなかったということは、その理由といいますか、家族会としてのご説明をぜひ伺いたいということがまず一つです。そして実はそのモンゴルの訪問の後に早紀江様にも直接お会いして、その質問もその時させていただきました。でその時にお母様のお返事だったのが、その時は他の拉致被害者の人たちを助けるためというふうにおっしゃいました。
はい、ありがとうございます。最初に年月の修正だけをしておきますけども、2004年ではなくて2014年にですね、キム・ウンギョンさんと、モンゴルで両親が会いました。
First of all, just to correct one of the dates that was mentioned, it was the year 2014 when my mother went to Mongolia and met with Kim Ugyeong.
このモンゴルでのキム・ウンギョンさんとの面会はかなり複雑なバックグラウンドがあって、当時その話が日本政府経由で伝えられた時に、 私たち家族はとても悩みました。
And to first state that at that timing, the visit to Mongolia to meet with Kim Eun-kyung was something which had a very complex background to it. And the information which is conveyed by the Japanese government to us at that time was something that we were also quite undecided or torn about.
少なくとも北朝鮮当局の思惑としては、両親とウンギョンさんと会った時に、ウンギョンさんの口から直接自分の母が亡くなっているんだと北朝鮮当局が言ってることをそのまま言わされてしまって、それを彼らが国家総力戦で広報戦略をかけて、その死亡を既成事実化させるような道具に使われてしまうというリスクを感じたからです。
And the reason for this is that we felt that there would be a risk that the intention of the North Korean government by setting up this meeting, the authorities would be that by organizing a meeting between my parents and Kim Eun-kyung, it would have her saying within or using her words directly that her mother, that is Megumi, had already passed away. So stating the same thing that the North Korean authorities were stating, and that this would then be utilized by the North Korean state as part of a massive PR case to convey their stance or their message that she had already died. This was a risk that we saw.
北朝鮮はめぐみという本来の問題の本質から目を背けさせて、ウンギョンさんにニュースのスポットが当たるように仕向けた可能性が高いわけです。
And we felt that there was a high possibility that the North Korean government was looking at how to bring the attention from Megumi, who should be the fundamental part of the attention there, bringing the news story there instead to Kim Eun-kyung.
私は当時両親に対してモンゴルに行ってウンギョンちゃんと会えば今の状態からゼロに向かうのではなくマイナスに陥ってしまうリスクが高いと助言しましたけれども、両親は私たち双子の弟の助言を分かっていながらも押し殺してモンゴル訪問を決めました。
At the time, I was advising my parents that if they did go to Mongolia and met just with Eun-kyung there, that it would be not only bringing back the situation to zero, but even bringing it into a negative situation, a minus there as well. Both myself and also my twin brother advised our parents of this. However, they did not, they understood where we were coming from, however, did not take our advice, and they went ahead and went to Mongolia.
両親も私や弟が言ってるその北朝鮮が仕掛けてくるであろうリスクがあることは分かっていましたが、一方で家族会の立場としてではなく、おじいちゃんおばあちゃんという一人の人間としてめぐみが生きていた証、足跡を自分たちが生きているうちに何とか見てみたい、感じてみたいということがやはり生きている人間の本性だと思うんですが、その価値観からそういうリスクを覚悟してモンゴル訪問を決めました。
Therefore, my parents, even though they understood the positions and the warnings which my brother and I were sharing with them and this risk of the North Korean government using in this way, they felt that rather than there as the association or the family's association, but as a grandmother and a grandfather, that they wanted to go there and meet firsthand with this proof of Megumi's life, to see any connection with her in this way, a proof of her having her life since they last met. Not proof of living, just to be clarifying there. So as human nature there, to be able to see and feel directly meeting with her daughter, they felt this value was even more important to them than the risk.
モンゴルを訪問した後にですね、その現地ではおそらくそのキム・ウンギョンさん自身がおそらく直感的にそういう判断をされたのではないかと私は思っていますが、結果的には両親とウンギョンさんとの間ではどちらからもですね、めぐみが生きているのか死んでいるのかといったようなやり取りはありませんでした。
However, after they arrived in Mongolia and when they met together with Kim Eun-kyung, and I believe that this was something which she decided herself, within their meetings there was actually no conversation between my parents and Kim Eun-kyung as to whether Megumi was indeed still alive or already dead.
その一つの理由は皆様方も想像できると思うんですが、キム・ウンギョンさんの周りには北朝鮮当局の監視員がいるからです。
And the reason for this is, as I'm sure that you can all imagine, is that there were various North Koreans who were monitoring or watching the situation there around her.
もし両親がウンギョンさんに お母さんはどこにいるのと質問して、知っていても知らなくても本音のことを語ってしまえば、その場では処罰はされなくても、帰国した後にウンギョンさん自身が処罰を受けてしまうことは彼女自身が感じていたと思いますから、やはり彼女がモンゴルで面会に来たこと自体がですね、彼女にとってはものすごく重荷を背負わされた面会だったと感じています。
If my parents had asked Kim Young-kyung during these meetings, where is your mother? Even if she knew or not there as well, speaking out or speaking what she felt about that would be something which could put her, of course, in danger there as well. Even if she were not to be punished on the spot, punishment could occur after she returned back to North Korea after that as well, if she did accidentally say something about how she truly felt or say something which was not what she should be saying. Therefore, I believe that even coming to Mongolia to meet our family was for her quite a significant burden.
そして2つ目の質問である、その両親が言っていた他の拉致被害者のためにというふうなことを私なりに考えると、やはり何もない動きがない中では結果的に得るものは何もないわけです。おそらく両親が感じたのは、リスクを覚悟してでも動きがある中で自分たちがモンゴルを訪問することによって何か新しい情報を得ることができて、拉致被害者のその他の方々、拉致問題全体に寄与するような情報が聞けるのではないかというような、そういった期待はあったんだろうと思います。
And as to the second part of your question about my mother's statement that going there was also to help the other families, if I could imagine what I understood her to mean by this kind of statement, it was also looking at the situation where there were no movements at all, where nothing was happening in relation to this. I believe that my parents felt that it was better to, even at the risk of something happening which could have been negative, to go there and see if there was, for example, any way to obtain any new information, either about the abductees or any other relevant or related information as well. They felt that it would be for the sake or for the interest of the other families and the people paying attention to this issue as well, to go there even at the risk to have the meeting in Mongolia.
参考までにモンゴル訪問、モンゴルでの面会の話とは少し話が異なるんですが、私たち横田家がそういう合う合わないといったような難しい判断を迫られたのはそれだけではなくて、例えば1997年に国会の中で横田めぐみという実名を挙げていいか悪いかという判断を迫られた時がありました。
And just to give us reference or further information as well, times when we as the Yokota family were forced to make these kind of difficult decisions was not only about whether to go to Mongolia for this meeting or not, but also, for example, in 1997, whether to have her actual name, Yokota Megumi, said at the Diet or not, expressly at the Diet or not, was also one of these moments for us.
母と双子の弟は絶対に実名公開するべきではない。なぜならば横田めぐみと公の電波で発した瞬間に北朝鮮当局はそんな13歳の子供、まさにあの子を拉致したことはない、知らないと言って抹殺してしまうのではないかという恐れを感じたからです。
And the reason for this was my mother and both myself and my twin brother felt that the moment that her real name was released, was announced, and if it was reported on television, then the North Korean government would then automatically just say, looking at this 13-year-old girl, there is no way that we would abduct such a little girl, and just completely put silence on the issue.
でも父親は私たちとは全く違う価値観を持っていて、抽象的なことを言っても世論は受け入れてくれない。新潟の下校途中の13歳の横田めぐみが拉致されたんだということを実名を挙げない限り世論は関心を持ってくれない、リスクを覚悟してでも実名公開するべきだという決定をしました。
However, our father had different values and a very different position there. He said that if the issue was only kept abstract, then there would not be any way to have public attention on the issue. It would only be from saying 13-year-old Megumi Yokota on her way home from school in Niigata, saying out loud and showing the facts of her situation, that people would pay attention and there would be the public spotlight on the issue.
私たち横田家は今の国会での実名公開のことやモンゴルの訪問の時もそれぞれ楽観的な予測と悲観的な予測をいつも考えながらギリギリの判断を迫られているわけであります。
So we, as the Yokota family, whether in the case of deciding whether to release her name at the Diet or the case of whether to go to Mongolia or not, we are constantly throughout this time being forced to be on the very borderline, having to make these kind of decisions, considering the risks and also both from very optimistic but also pessimistic potential outcomes of the situation.
Thank you very much. And just to be clear, you've never had any contact with Megumi's daughter, your niece. Is that right?
でその後はキム・ウンギョンさんとのやり取りなどというものはございませんでしょうか。
両親含めて私含めてそれ以来面会手紙のやり取りは一切ないです。彼女はおそらく元気でやってくれてると思いますが、そういった具体的なコミュニケーションはありません。
Since that meeting in Mongolia, there has been no either meetings or communication such as via letters, both with my parents or with myself as well, and my niece, Kim Eun-kyung. I understand or I believe that she is still healthy and well. However, we have not had any communication or any direct engagement in any kind of way.
Thank you. The gentleman with the glasses has been waiting quite a while. Can I ask that you only ask one question from now on, if you don't mind?
これご質問の方を一つずつに絞っていただけますでしょうか。
ジャパンタイムズのタンと申します。よろしくお願いします。さっきただいま来週の日米首脳会談についておっしゃいましたが、まずバイデン政権を発足した後の日米両国がそういう拉致問題の解決を向けた取り組みについて考えを教えていただければと思います。あともしアメリカのトランプ氏が再選したなら拉致問題の解決の可能性についてですねどのようにお考えでしょうか。
My name is Tang of the Japan Times. I'd like to ask, first of all, you referred to the U.S.-Japan summit taking place next week. I'd like to ask how you view the efforts towards resolution of this issue since the Biden administration has been in place, and also considering if Trump were to be elected as the next prime minister, how you see the possibility or the likelihood in regards to resolution of the abductees issue.
今月の日米首脳会談というのはとても重要な場だと思っています。大統領とお会いしたのは2006年のブッシュ大統領とですねホワイトハウスのオーバルルームの中でお会いしたことをはじめですねトランプ大統領バイデン大統領ともお会いしていて、それは共和党であっても民主党であってもですねアメリカとしてこの人権問題である日本人拉致事件は必ず解決させる、北朝鮮の暴挙を許さないという価値観はぶれていませんから、それはもう今度どなたがですね次期大統領になるにしても引き続きアメリカの姿勢を貫いてほしいと思っていますし、そのことを今度の岸田総理が訪米される時ですね日米首脳同士の約束を交わしてきてほしいと思っています。
This upcoming U.S.-Japan summit is something which will be a very important timing. Meetings with U.S. presidents have occurred in the past, starting from in 2006, when the families met with then President Bush at the Oval Room in the White House. Since then, also meeting both with Presidents Trump and Biden. So whether it is either Republican or Democratic, the United States position has consistently been to see these abductees or the abductees from North Korea of Japanese citizens as a human rights issue, and pledge to work towards resolution of this, to not allow North Korea to conduct such acts. There has been no change in the stance, whether it is Republic or Democratic in place there as well. Therefore, no matter who the next president in the United States will be, we hope that they will continue to uphold this stance, and we hope that when Prime Minister Kishida visits the United States soon, also the two leaders will together make a pledge or a promise towards continuing this and action towards this in the future.
参考までにですねまだ具体的なことは決まっていなくて予定を設計中の段階ではありますけれども、このゴールデンウィークも昨年に続いて家族会と救う会と拉致議連で訪米をして、アメリカ国内今大統領選前ですから、なかなか私たちが考えているほど面会が簡単ではないと思っていますが、それでもですね政府関係者や上下両院議員の方、シンクタンクの方々ともう一度お会いして、私たちの運動方針を作って、日本政府が北朝鮮当局と組みしやすいようにですね、そういった環境整備もしてこようかと思っています。
And as reference, this is not something which has been decided concretely yet, but we are planning continuing from last year as well as both our Association of Families and also together with the Diet Caucus working toward resolution of the abductee issue to together visit the United States. While, of course, it is the timing prior to the US election, we're not sure how many, of course, members of Congress or the Senate we will be able to meet with at this time. However, we hope to have meetings with them and also with relevant think tanks and so on to discuss this issue and to try and also create opportunities that there will be collaboration with the United States towards resolution of this issue.
Thank you. Just allow me, I see your hand and I also see two more hands, but just allow me to ask an online question. This is from Anthony Trotter of ABC. North Korea has said any future talks will have nothing to do with the nuclear weapons program. Should the Japanese government be willing to accept this term for a shot at bringing the abductees home?
Sorry, could you repeat the second part?
Should the Japanese government be willing to accept this? Yeah. So should they be accepting to accept that condition, I guess, for a shot at bringing the abductees back?
次、オンラインの方で届いている質問を一つ紹介させていただきます。ABC のアンソニー・トロッターさんからの質問なんですけれども、今北朝鮮側が今後交渉、対話が行われるのであれば核兵器のものについてのものではないというふうに、核兵器が対象にならないというふうに主張しているんですけれども、日本政府は拉致問題を解決するためにその条件を受け入れて対話に臨むべきでしょうか。
はい、ありがとうございます。岸田総理が、いろいろな場でご発言されている通り、私たち同家族会、救う会の運動方針にもある通りですね、これまでは核やミサイルと人権というのは、パッケージとして語られていて、その核問題が解決がしない限り、拉致問題が解決しないという、そういう枠組みでありました。そのために延々と時間だけが経過して、会えるべき家族との再会ができなくて、多くの親世代が他界してしまったという現実があります。その意味で、私たちが核やミサイル問題と切り離して、人権人道問題を優先的に解決してほしいんだということを日本政府にお伝えし、北朝鮮当局にもそのメッセージを伝えています。そしてその同じ価値観が岸田総理からも北朝鮮当局に発せられていますので、実際の日朝間の水面下の交渉がどのような会話がされているか私たちには全く分かりませんが、人権問題、人道問題、そして両国にあるその人道問題を解決することによって、私たちが国際社会が課している経済制裁を逸脱しない範囲で両国ができること、未来を描けることを取り組もうじゃないかということを語っているということであります。
As Mr. Kishida has been saying in various different places in regards to this, and also as our updated policy says as well, until now the abductees issue had been taken together with nuclear weapons, missiles, and also human rights together as one package to be under discussion and negotiated together. However, within this, we have not been able to resolve the issue still. Well, there has just been time passing still then with families not being reunited with their abducted family members, and the parents' generation has been passing on. So there stands until now to say that there is no resolution of the abductees issue without also address the nuclear weapons issue is something which has not succeeded in having the resolution of the abductees issue. Therefore, we are now saying at the moment that we need to separate the nuclear or missile program discussion and human rights or humanitarian issues, including the abductees issue, and work towards that as a priority now as well. This is something we have conveyed both to the Japanese government and also to the North Korean side as well. We've also heard that Prime Minister Kishida is also making messages along these angles to North Korea as well. While, of course, we cannot be certain about what the content of the negotiations under the surface now between Japan and the DPRK government are, we believe that efforts need to be made as a priority to resolve the both human rights and humanitarian issues which are shared by both of the two countries within the limits of not infringing the economic sanctions which have been imposed by the international community, but to be able to make steps towards this forward.
Thank you. So the answer is yes. They should be separated, or they could be separated.
ではその問題を別々として考えて取り組むべきということでよろしいですか。
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to come back to you if that's okay. I'll just ask a question from over here from this side of the room. That'll be Kitano-san.
朝日新聞北野です。この記者会見場の外の廊下のところにはですね、横田滋さん、早紀江さん夫妻の 記者会見中の写真が掲げられています。これは20年ぐらい前の写真だと思うんですけども、家族会代表として記者会見されるのはそれ以来のことなのか、拓也さんご自身はここで記者会見するのは初めてなのか、何回目なのか、でこの時期に記者会見するというのは、やはり岸田総理の訪米、日米首脳会談の前というタイミングに合わせてということなのか、今回このタイミングという意味についても教えてください。それから、横田拓也さんはアメリカやジュネーブの国連などによく訪問されています。それも国際社会に拉致問題解決を訴えるということだと思いますが、ここでこの外国特派員協会で訴えることの意味、特に北朝鮮にどのようにメッセージが届くかということについてはどのようにお考えでしょうか。
はい、ご質問。
My name is Kitado of the Asahi. We could see out in the hallway here, there's a photograph of your parents, Shigeru and Sakie Yokota, when they gave a press conference here, I believe, around 20 years ago. Can we understand that this is the first press conference of the Association of Families here since then? And also, is it your first press conference that you are giving on behalf of the association? If not, can you tell us what number you have given until now? Next is also the timing of holding the press conference here at the moment. Is this because it is immediately prior to Prime Minister Kishida's visit to the US and the US-Japan summit? Or is there any other particular reason for giving a press conference at this particular timing? You also, yourself, Mr. Yokota, have often spoken, for example, in the United States or at the UN in Geneva as well, sending a message to the international community. Given that you are speaking here today at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan, if we could ask if there is a particular significance to this and if there is any message that you would like to convey to the North Korean side.
はい、ご質問ありがとうございます。両親がこの場でですね、過去に会見をさせてもらったこと、写真が飾られていることは承知をしています。本当に時間だけが経過してしまっているなということをいつも思います。それは私自身が姉が拉致された13歳の時に9歳だったその私が46年後の今もですね、こうした最前線で声を上げていること自体がその長い時間を肌で感じるところであります。私自身はこの場でですね、代表としてもしくは代表じゃない立場としてもですね、こうした記者会見を受けるのは初めてであります。この目的自体は日常の救出活動の延長でいうと、国際社会の皆様方になおも人質解雇が続けられているその残虐性を知ってもらいたい、それを世界に発信してほしいということでもありますし、ご指摘になったように今月の訪米日米首脳会談の中で必ずこの北朝鮮の人権問題を取り上げてほしい、それを皆様方のペンやカメラや放送を持って伝えてほしいということからですね、こうした機会をいただきました。この人権問題というのは補助的な回答をすると、北朝鮮人権理事会で今日のニュースだと思いますけれども、22回連続で北朝鮮の人権侵害の非難をされたニュースが伝わっている通り、これは日本が解決しなくてはいけない当事国である日本の問題ではあるけれども、人権問題、人権侵害が46年間もされてなおも解決されておらず、人質解雇が続いている国があるということは、私たち国を問わずイデオロギーを問わず国際社会に訴えてほしいと思っています。
First of all, I am aware of the fact that there is a photograph in the hallway here of my parents when they gave that press conference here before. And what this really makes me feel is just how much time has been passing, and only time passing really since then. When we think also about the fact that my sister was 13 years old at the time of her abduction, and then I was 9 years old, and now I'm still standing here 46 years later having to speak out on the front line, I really feel this situation and how much time has passed very directly and keenly. Whether as a representative of the association or in any capacity, this is my first time to give a press conference here. The objective here is, will also be a continuation, of course, of our daily efforts. This is part of wanting to inform the international community of the situation and this cruel reality, and also take some steps towards having this spoken out or shared with the world as well. Of course, it is, as mentioned, related to the timing with the upcoming Prime Minister's visit to the United States and the US-Japan summit taking place as well, and we hope that the issue of abductees will be raised and North Korean human rights issue will be raised at this upcoming upcoming summit as well. And also hope that all of your pens, your cameras, your broadcasts will also help to contribute to this message being conveyed as well. Looking at this human rights issue, of course, if we look, for example, at the news from the Human Rights Committee meetings happening as well, there has been 22 continuous occasions where this issue is being raised as human rights violations. And while the Japanese government is, of course, one of the parties are involved in this, needs to respond to this, the fact that this violations has been continuing to happen for 46 years now and has not yet been resolved. No matter what country or what ideology this is, the fact that such a human rights violation has been continuing for all of this time is something very concerning.
Thank you. Is that okay? 北野さん、大丈夫ですかね。
北朝鮮にどのように届け
そうですね。3番目の質問です。
And the third part about what kind or how you would like this to be conveyed to North Korea.
北朝鮮はですね、皆様方が発信される文字や報送をですね、くまなくチェックしてます。それは岸田総理の発言、国会内の発言や国民大集会での発言を一言一句チェックしていると同じように、皆さん方がこの人権問題がなおも続いているんだと、国際社会から非難されているんだということを取り上げてくれれば、そのことがプレッシャーに感じます。私自身が今日こうしてこの場で会見をしていることも彼らに届くはずです。それ自体が私が持っている言葉の力だと信じています。
I believe that North Korea is, of course, checking in very details all of the words which may be reported by you, broadcast by you about this issue as well. The same way, also anything that may be spoken in the parliament or in public gatherings as well, by, for example, by Kishida. So the fact that this will be reported means that they will show that it's being talked about, that this human rights issue is continuing, that the international community is paying attention to this, and this will form a kind of pressure toward North Korea as well. And I believe that this is the power of my words and continuing to speak out about this issue.
Thank you. And I've been asked to point out that the photograph outside, which we're discussing, was taken in 2014, so it's 10 years old, not 20 years old. The gentleman at the
写
back.
真の方は2014年の写真だそうです。外の廊下の写真です。
ジャパンフォーワードのダニエル・マニングと申します。日本語でお伺いいたします。最近の北朝鮮の合意の可能性を示すシグナルを考慮すると、日本政府がこの機会を生かしてどのような具体的な手順を取るべきだと考えていますか。
I'm from Japan Forward. I'd like to ask, considering that there is these potential signals coming from North Korea recently towards an agreement, what kind of measures or steps do you think the Japanese government should take to utilize this opportunity?
はい、ありがとうございます。北朝鮮から出ている質問というか、威嚇的な談話や威嚇的なコメントというのは、受け止めるべきところがあれば、一方で受け流すところが多いと思っています。実際の交渉をする日本政府の立場としてはですね、先ほど私が冒頭申し上げたように、加害者が北朝鮮であって被害者が日本国であるわけですから、私たちが譲歩する話ではないというその気持ち、怒りの気持ちを持ってまずは彼らと対話をしてほしいと思っています。そして私たちがいつも方針で掲げている全拉致被害者の一括帰国ということを貫いてほしいと思っています。これは政府が認定している未認定の方も含めて全員が帰ってこれることで、先ほど私たちの方針に掲げている北朝鮮への人道支援や独自の制裁解除をすることが全拉致被害者の即時一括帰国、そこを貫いてほしいと思っています。部分的解決や段階的解決でお茶を濁して幕引きや時間稼ぎということがあってはならない、その価値観を日本政府には貫いてほしいと思っています。
Looking at the different either questions or threatening statements or comments which are coming from North Korea, there are some of these which should be taken on board, but some that should be passed by or taken with a pinch of salt, shall we say, as well. When we consider the position of the Japanese government in negotiation, as I mentioned in my opening remarks as well, when it comes to this problem, this issue, it is, of course, the perpetrator is the North Korean state and the victims are Japan. So therefore, it should not be Japan who is having to make concessions in regards to this. However, I hope that the Japanese government will, when they are entering these negotiations or discussions with North Korea, they will hold this anger in regards to this situation and to remember these facts of the situation there as well. As for the association of families, as we've stated in our policy, we are consistently calling for the return of all abductees together at the same time. This is also including those who have not been officially recognized as abductees by the Japanese government as well. So for all of the abductees to be returned. And the way to realize this is and in relation to our updated policy, looking at accepting the provision of humanitarian aid for North Korea and also the lifting of Japan's unilateral sanctions in regards to this as well. This means that we are not ready to accept, for example, a partial return or saying stage by stage, something that would be done just to buy more time on the part of North Korea, but the full resolution of this issue. And this is what we hope the Japanese government will work towards.
Thank you. Karen, you had your hand up, is that right? Yeah, どうぞ。
ラジオフランスの特派員西村と申します。一点だけ確認したいんですけど、写真はよく字体わからないんです。後ろにある真っ白のところは加工された写真可能性はありますでしょうか。
ありがとうございます。
I'd like to ask about the photograph which is displayed now when we're looking. Sorry, my name is Nishimura of Radio France. It seems that it may be looking at the white background behind her. It could be a photograph which has been somewhat edited, for example, or if you could share a little bit more about this photograph.
もうご指摘の通りですね、北朝鮮から提示されているものは、全て疑っていいだろうというのが私の考え方です。これは北朝鮮に連れて行かれてからその日の当日なのか1週間後なのか1ヶ月後なのかは正直分かりません。日本政府もおそらくそれは把握していないと思いますが、少なくとも新潟の下校途中、夕方の下校途中に拉致されて、どのような形で拉致されたか分かりませんが、他の拉致被害者、帰国された5人の方の話を聞くところによれば、袋をかぶせられて拉致されたことを考えると、めぐみが着ているワイシャツがですね、例えば破れていたり汚れていたりすることはありえると思うんですが、この彼女の写真を見る限りはきれいなワイシャツを着ていることを考えると、拉致された直後や翌日ではないだろうと思っています。すでにご存知かもしれませんが、脱北した北朝鮮から逃げてきた元工作員の人の証言によれば、姉は拉致された後に北朝鮮の港に着いた時に、船の底から鍵のかかった部屋を開けてくれと泣き叫んで、港に着いた時は指は血で染まっていたと言います。おそらく泣き続けていたはずです。でもこの顔を見ると泣き続けた顔ではないと思います。悲しい顔はしてるけども泣き続けた、つまり直後の写真ではないです。でこの写真が捏造されてるかされてないかは正直分かりません。ただこれはソファーのところに座らされて、彼らの思惑としてはめぐみに危害を加えないで、この時までは少なくとも大事に扱っていたんだよということを私たちに嘘の情報で理解させるためにこうした写真を出してきている可能性があります。それはどちらにしても捏造しているかしてないか分からないんですが、ここから分かることはここに英語で書いてある通りですね、私冒頭申し上げたように、こんな悲しい姉の姿を見たことがないというその怒りの気持ちを私自身、そして皆さん自身も自分の子供だったらどう思うかということを感じてほしいと思っています。
As mentioned, personally, my stance is that anything which is provided by North Korea is something which we should be doubted. And so in regards to this photo, we are not clear about whether this is something which was taken, for example, on the day of her abduction, 1 week later, 1 month later. We don't know when this was at all. And I don't believe that the Japanese government is also aware or knows when exactly, or the facts around this photograph as well. When we also are not sure about what form or in what method she was abducted as she was walking home in the evening from school in Niigata. However, if we go by the testimonies or the stories of the 5 abductees who have since returned to Japan, they spoke about being abducted with a bag placed over their heads, for example. Or if we look at the shirt she is wearing in this photograph, we could see that if she was taken in this kind of way, she might be having some, the shirt may be torn or be dirty and so on, but it doesn't seem that that is the case in this photograph. It is quite a clean white shirt that she is wearing here. So in that sense, it doesn't give me the impression that this is something taken immediately or on the day of her abduction, for example. As you may be aware, there is testimony from a North Korean agent who has since left North Korea or escaped North Korea as a defector as well, and he has spoken about the situation of when Megumi was abducted after they arrived by ship in the port in North Korea, of opening up the door of the part under the boat where she was being held captive, and she was crying out saying, "Open the door, open the door." When the door was open, her fingers were also covered in blood at the time as well, but it doesn't look like that is the kind of situation she was in on this time that the photograph was taken. It doesn't also seem that it's taken immediately after she had been crying all day, for example. While she does have a very sad expression on her face, it doesn't seem it's following this kind of a timing. As to whether the photograph has been edited or doctored in some way, of course, that could be the case as well. We are not sure of the nature of this. We can only see that she has been placed to sit on a sofa and the photograph has been taken here. And I believe that their intention of providing this photograph is to show that no harm had been done to her and that she was being taken care of. And this was kind of the false information that they were trying to provide to us by providing this photograph. Either way, of course, it could have been falsified or edited in any kind of way. The main message I wanted to convey in showing this photograph today, though, is looking, as I mentioned as well, that I have never seen such a sad expression on my sister's face ever. And I just want everybody, as you're looking at this, to think about if this were your own family, your own children, and keep that in mind.
Thank you very much. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. It's 4 o'clock. We do have to end it there. Obviously, we wish Yokota-san and his family all the best in trying to resolve this issue. And we appreciate that he came today to talk to us and explain it and keep it fresh in everybody's mind. Please do show your appreciation for the speaker. Thank you very much.